Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. Today we're diving back into profound stories by John Willis and Derek Lewis, and we're going to unpack a really famous management experiment, one that totally flips the script on how we usually judge performance. From there, we'll see how that single idea scales up, from writing a book all the way to the grand sweep of human history. Let's get into it. So, we'll kick things off with a simple game that's basically a rigged game of red and white beads. Then, we'll see how those lessons apply to something you might not expect, creative work. After that, we'll zoom out and see how this all signals a massive historical shift in how we even think about quality. And then, of course, we'll bring it right back to how you can use these ideas. And we'll wrap it all up with one big, important question for the world we live in today.
All right, so our story starts with a legend in management thinking, a guy named W. Edwards Deming and his famous red bead experiment. Now, this is such a brilliant demonstration because it's designed to prove one simple, powerful point. Sometimes the game is rigged from the very beginning, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the player.
This setup couldn't be simpler. Picture this. You've got a box with 4,000 beads. Most are white, but 800 of them are red. Your job, as what Deming called a willing worker, is to take this special paddle and scoop out exactly 50 beads. The goal that management sets for you? Simple. Get 0 red beads. But here's the catch. It's statistically impossible. Because 20% of the beads are red, you're always, and I mean always, going to get an average of about 10. The system itself guarantees you will fail. Now, Deming used this to show something he called common cause variation. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. It's the natural, random noise that's just baked into any system. You see, the red beads aren't your fault as the worker. They are a fundamental feature of the process. The real problem is with whoever supplied the beads in the first place, not the person doing the scooping. And here's the absolute kicker. When managers react to this built-in randomness as if it's a sign of good or bad performance, giving a bonus to someone who got lucky with 7 red beads and firing someone who got 13, they're doing what Deming called tampering. They're meddling with a stable system because they fundamentally misunderstand what's actually going on. And this scorecard, taken from a simulation in the book, just shows tampering in action perfectly. Look at it. Company X ranks everyone by their results. Bob, he looks like a superstar, right? Meanwhile, Tom and Maya are fired for poor performance. But we know the truth, don't we? Their results are just random noise churned out by the system. They were fired for being unlucky. That's it. Which leads us to Deming's absolutely profound conclusion. The workers, they wanted to do a good job. They were willing. But they were trapped by the process. The job of management isn't to blame people, it's to improve the system. In this case, that means going to the supplier and getting a better batch of beads. So let's switch gears. How on earth does this idea about factory processes and beads apply to something as personal and creative as, say, writing a book? Well, it turns out the underlying principles are exactly the same. When John Willis was writing this very book, he learned 5 really important lessons. But take a closer look. These aren't just tips for writers. Keep the review circle tight. Well, that's about managing your process inputs. Triangulate feedback. That's about understanding the variation in your data. Take as much time as you need is all about rejecting arbitrary targets. You see, every single one is a way of building a better system for creating a quality book. And that's the light bulb moment. That's the connection right back to Deming. Willis realized he had to stop judging every single draft, every single output, and instead, he had to focus on improving the process of writing itself continuously. Once he did that, the quality of the final book just took care of itself. He was fixing the system, not just tampering with the results. Okay, so now let's pull the camera way, way back, because this shift in focus from the individual to the system, it's not just a neat management trick. It is genuinely one of the most important shifts in all of human history. I mean, think about it. For millions of years, ever since our ancestor Lucy first used a tool to make a better tool, quality was all about the skill of one person, the craftsman. The blacksmith, the potter, their individual skill was everything. But today, we live in a world of incredibly complex, interconnected systems, what the book calls a Digital Cambrian Explosion.
And this changes the most fundamental question we have to ask. For that craftsman, the question was always, how good is good enough? It was a judgment call on their personal skill. But in our modern world, quality is almost never about one heroic person. It's what's called an emergent property of the entire system working together.
Okay, this is all fascinating theory, but how do we actually use it? How can you learn to spot the red beads, those systemic flaws, in your own work, in your own life? Well, here's a little practical guide. First, and this is the big one, just pause before you blame anyone. Ask yourself, is this a weird one-off thing, or does this kind of problem keep happening? That'll help you see if it's an individual issue or a system flaw. Then, you've got to avoid tampering. Don't overreact to every little dip and peak in performance. Instead, go investigate the process. Talk to the people actually doing the work, and focus your energy on improving the inputs, not just judging the outputs. So this brings us full circle, doesn't it? From Deming's simple little experiment with some colored beads, we've seen how a deep understanding of systems is just critical for everything from creative work to navigating the complex world we all live in. And so we'll leave you with this final thought. In the 21st century, maybe the most important question we can ask isn't about individual skill or individual effort anymore. It's about design. It's about leadership. It's about asking ourselves, how can we build systems at our jobs, in our communities, in our own lives that make quality, that make success, that make human flourishing the natural, inevitable outcome?